Hi everyone, I'm André Frischknecht. I have been racing World Cups over the last 10 years. I learned a thing or two and now I'm gonna share something with you. The topic today is about chicken lines.
Often in World Cup racing there are two lines, a slower one that's a safer one, easier to ride. We call it the chicken line, and the more technical, more dangerous one that's faster. It's not always smart to take the more risky line throughout the whole race. Maybe you want to save that as a surprise thing towards the end of the race when it really counts for the position.
Actually, in the start loop you can pass 10 or 15 guys if you make a smart move, taking the chicken line that actually should be slower.
For example, in Nove Mesto, first lap when it gets crowded, if you're not in top 6 position, you rather take the slower chicken line that's not so crowded instead of getting stuck in the main line where there's a lot of traffic.
A perfect example of the chicken line, it's a bit similar to the World Cup in Lenzerheide, where you have this big rock and around you see it's the slower line. As you can see here now, it's way better to take the more risky line, so you have an advantage on the downhill.
And as usual, the old guy loses. But he still doesn't have these.
Hey Lars, I see you have been riding the Axios Technology vibration dampening system. How does it work?
It takes a lot of vibrations out. The feeling on the trail is just a lot smoother.
How many stickers you have?
Depending the setup, you have a bit of everything on the bike, on the wheels, on the frame, handlebar, suspension. I think around 10.
We kept it secret, but actually Nino, he won 2018 World Championships with this system. So it takes a lot of vibrations out, but still you have to set up your suspension correct, and that we are gonna check with Yannick right now.
Make sure that you have helmet, shoes, your clothes on, maybe also a backpack if you mostly ride with it. Jump on the bike, hold you on a table, on a wall. Make sure that your system is open. Then first step is stand up, do a little bit of movement on the fork and the shock. Then push the rubber rings down completely, come down off the bike very carefully. Next step will be the calculation. Quickly check the sag position. We have 20 mm here. On a 100 mm fork, 20 mm sag will be 20%, which I recommend on a regular cross-country bike.
And how is it with the shock?
It's a little bit easier. We have a super nice scale. We can see that we have here 20% as well. For a regular mountain biker, I would recommend 20% in the front and in the back.
Does this always stay the same or we change it?
For sure, it depends a little bit on your rider style. If you're super aggressive, if you make big jumps. The sag depends also on weather condition. For example, if it's super rainy, the dirt picks up the bike, the athlete. On the start line, the bike is lighter until you ride it. So we have to rise a little bit the air pressure.
Once we have set up the sag, we can start with the clickers.
We have always a rebound and a compression side. To start with, I would recommend like a medium setup, so you can go through all clicks, you can count it and just go around the middle, so you won't have the super fast outcoming of the fork and also not the slow one.
When we adjust the rebound, we also have to adjust the compression. And it's always clockwise, you're closing, and then it gets harder and slower. And if you open it counterclockwise, it gets faster and softer. 3 or 4 clickers at the same time, compression and rebound. So I actually can feel a difference. It's really important to do this outside because there is no perfect setup in the workshop. You have to really ride it. In marathon racing we go a bit different with the setup. We like to have a little bit more sag just to make the bike a bit more comfy, a bit more sensitive for these longer rides because there is no big jumps, or just want to have a smooth, comfy bike for these longer rides. An easy way to set up your cleats on your mountain bike shoes: aim for the bones on your foot, the big bone here on this side and the bone from the small pinky on the outside, and I'm aiming for the middle of these 2 bones, and for that I put the shoe on. Then you need to have some duct tape because you don't want to mark it directly on the shoe. You're looking for these bones again, make a small line inside and outside, and you're trying to make one line with these 2 marks. It should be actually in the middle of your cleat. This is the position where you want to start. You can move a little bit to the inside or to the outside, and then you can check this while you're on the bike. You don't want to be touching or be too far to the crank, because if you want to use shoe warmers, you will be touching the crank. Then another thing to set up is the angle of the cleat. You don't want to be too far to the inside like this, what makes you touching the frame, and this one is also not good because your foot will be sticking out and your pedal efficiency won't be really nice. It can cause big injuries if you adjust your cleat in the wrong position. I recommend to see a bike fitter to make sure your cleat is properly adjusted.
Each model we have in a different construction. First of all, we have EXO protection, tubeless ready, 170 technology, 120 TPI. TPI stands for tread per inch. As higher the number, as softer is the construction.
The 120 TPI, it's more material integrated, so it's a heavier tire overall. But what this means is also you have more protection. For example, in Mont Saint-Anne, where you have a lot of sharp rocks, where the risk of puncture is really high, I like to have 120 TPI at least in my rear. And then there is another case, like the Cape Epic, where we even ride front and rear 120 TPI. When there is fast racing without a lot of sharp rocks, for sure we take the 170.
Andre, does the TPI affect the air pressure?
Yes, of course it does. If you have less TPI, you will have a stiffer sidewall. That means the tire is not working as good. My tire pressure with the 2.4 Aspen is always 1.3 in the rear and 1.25 in the front. And then from that I start to adjust a little bit if I'm choosing the 170 TPI. If I'm having 120 in the rear already, I go a bit lower, maybe 1.2, 1.25.
Talking about tire pressure, we have to deal with the temperature, altitude. What else?
At the Cape Epic it's a great example where you start in the morning 10 degrees, really cold, and then you finish maybe 35 degrees, so you have a 25-degree difference in about 3 or 4 hours. And that will affect the tire pressure massively. So we put in the morning like 1.3 and finishing 1.6 to 1.7 in the afternoon. Also when you're going from the inside to the outside, especially in winter time, when it's warm inside, you pump your bike, you check everything, and then you go outside, it's really cold. The air inside will fold your tire and you will lose pressure.
Is it a big difference if it's, for example, a little bit muddy?
Yeah, of course it is, because we change the rim and the tire. So we have a smaller rim and a smaller tire. That means you have to go up with pressure, around 1.5 front and rear.